Hey, what's up guys? Matt Johnston here, helping you make videos that make money. But today I want to talk a little bit about photo. I know a lot of you out there have a camera, you love it, you use it as a hobby, and that's totally awesome. The thing is, do you know what you're doing in Photoshop? Do you know what you're doing in Lightroom? All those things. And to be honest with you, when I got into photography, and it wasn't really all that long ago, I mean, I've been doing video, but I hadn't really done photography, I was sort of intimidated by the idea of Lightroom. So I was digging into some of the color correcting and everything. And you know, it was going well. I watched a lot of YouTube tutorials, that was all fine. But the issue that I ended up running into was that ultimately I couldn't make it look perfect. And I'm a busy guy, I don't have a ton of time, I run a company, I have tons of stuff going on, I'm trying to make videos for you guys on this channel. And going through and individually editing all of these photos in Lightroom in a way which honestly wasn't 100% optimal, and then I bring it into Photoshop and all this stuff, I was sort of looking for a solution without looking for a solution. And that's when I found Luminar AI. This is not a sponsored video. They didn't pay for anything here. And it's relatively inexpensive, way cheaper than Lightroom. So I dug in, they have like a free 30-day money-back guarantee, and I started digging in and I have fallen in love with it. And now I can make photos that are absolutely awesome. So what I want to do with you is show you in this video exactly how I take a photo that I took with my kids this past weekend when we went to Great Wolf Lodge. The sky's blown out and there's some contrast issues, but I knew that there was something there. And I'm shooting in RAW, so I've got all that dynamic range there. The question is, how do I actually pull it out of the photo so that I can have something that I'm proud to show around? So here's what the before looked like, and here's what it looked like after I ran it through Luminar AI. I'm gonna re-edit that photo in the exact way that I did it before, and I'm gonna show you exactly how I can do this super fast and super effectively. Let's go. Okay, so here we are in our finished photo right here. And this is the before, as you can see. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go back in Luminar. So you go into the catalog, you import your stuff there, you tell it what folders to look for, and then you grab them. Templates, you can add specific looks to them, but right now we're just going to go to edit. And we're going to dig into the little details, and you'll see them all over here. So history allows you to go see go back to every single step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way back to the original. Okay. And now we're going to start digging in. So the first thing that I always do when I'm editing photos, and again, it's not like I'm some kind of crazy professional with photos. I've been working in video for a very long time, but photo editing is somewhat new to me. And so that's why I love this solution so much. So the first thing that we're going to do is dig into accent. So you're going to see all these things on the right, different things that you can select. We'll get into them as we go. But obviously there's a couple things that I'm seeing in this off the bat. And this is the focal point. It's a cool little shot here, but you know, it doesn't have a lot of contrast. There's not a lot of contrast. It doesn't stick out much. The color is desaturated. The sky is pretty blown out. Luckily, I did shoot in RAW, so we've got a lot of data here. But you can see there's all sorts of stuff messed up. So the first thing I have to do, and what I love about this is, you know, it's called Luminar AI because it uses artificial intelligence to read the data and then make decisions about it. So I'm going to take up this accent. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And you can already see a ton of improvements. So I don't really know why they call it accent. I don't like that. I kind of wish they just called it like AI enhance or something like that, or improve. But that's basically all that it does, is that it just goes through and enhances what it thinks it should enhance based on the data that it has from the photo. So you can see if I turn this off and you can just toggle this, we already have a huge difference. I mean, it's already a lot better, and you can see some of the detail in the sky is coming back. And I usually have this up pretty high because Luminar, the AI does a really good job with this. Now, of course, you can change, you know, how much you want. In this case, I really think it needs sort of the full. I'm going to give it pretty much the full potential here. Now, if I go to Sky Enhancer, you can see what happens. starts to bring the blue back in that sky, which is totally cool. So now it's looking really, really good. There's some blemishes here and everything, but it's looking way better. I mean, you can see the before and after already. Just with these few little tweaks, it's a ton better. But we're still not exactly where we need to be, right? As far as the final product. I want to make this pop more. I need to basically create more contrast so that our eye is drawn directly here. So the composition, I don't think I'm going to change it much in this, but you can go to composition.ai and it will try to figure out where you should have your photo. So it's identifying this as the main thing. So it's saying that would be in your lower third. I'm actually going to leave it for this one the way it is. And we'll just go through and decide how we want to make this pop a little bit more. So I think the first thing that I'm thinking is doing it through color. So what we want to do is sort of bring out these browns. So we'll go down to the color tab here, and I can just globally boost the entire saturation. So obviously that doesn't help a lot because it's bringing up everything, but you get the point. You can globally boost that, but if you don't, go and click the drop down for HSL, which I do all the time. So this starts on hue, but there's all sorts of things you can do. So if you wanted to change the oranges to be like a more brilliant orange or a darker orange or whatever it may be, that's how you do that. But I'm usually living in saturation here. So if I just wanted to take up the reds here, I could just take up the reds. And that's already making that pop more by doing that. Or if I just wanted to take up the oranges, pick up the oranges and the reds, it's already popping a ton more. And I can actually desaturate the green a little bit and the yellow so that there's just more from the background. So there is it with it off, with it on. So it's already popping a ton more, right? So that's one way to do it, is that you can just sort of take down the saturation a bit on where you don't want to draw attention. It's looking a little bit good. Yeah. Wow, it's looking so much better already. There are other ways to do this. You could also globally boost the saturation and you could mask out this. But I think just because we have such a difference in the colors, like there's no green here and there's no brown really here, then, you know, I mean, you can definitely get that good difference. Now, I could also take the sky up to a bit of a deeper blue, which is great. That's a great shot there. And I'm going to show you in a bit why I'm going to go a different route. But yeah, you could also make the sky a little bit more blue. And so everything's just popping a bit more. So you see, this is out of camera in RAW. And this is not. Now, if we go back to catalog, you can see I shot this with M50 at ISO 200, 250 millimeters. So I use my telephoto lens at an f5.6, 1/250th of a second shutter speed. All right, so let's go back here. So the other thing is we want to bring up the sharpening a little bit and maybe a little bit more of the structure. So you see what structure does. If I bring structure all the way up, it's looking crazy, but the definition is kind of cool. And I think maybe just adding a little bit here, it's all in the nuances, would really help. But I'm not going to add it everywhere. So you can see how it makes a huge difference throughout the photo, right? Huge difference. Take it down a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask out this stuff so that these don't have increased structure, because then they're competing more with this. So I'll go to the erase tool. And what I'm going to do is, since it's erase, I'm basically saying, hey, don't apply the structure to these parts of the image. So that's what this is right here. So I'm just going to go and take all the green here. And you can change your radius here if you want it a little bit bigger. Get bigger here at a time. So I'm just telling it, don't apply the structure to these pieces of it. Change my radius down a bit so that I can get a little bit closer. It's pretty good here. I don't want, I mean, this is supposed to be out of focus. I mean, there's a depth of field thing that we're trying to do here with the green. So we want this out. Okay. So now that structure you can see as we turn this off and on, it only is going to apply to the cabin. See, it makes a big difference there by adding a little bit of structure. We also might want to add a little bit of sharpening. So if I add it globally to everything, again, it's fun to see it all the way. And down, doesn't make a huge difference, but we'll just add a little bit of sharpening. You can always zoom in here and just see. You can see that it's starting to add a little bit of noise there. But we'll just sharpen it up just a little tiny bit, I think. Okay. Get it back to fit. But we're not going to sharpen up everything. We want to just focus on where we want the eye to be drawn. So once again, we're going to take this. Now, just to show you, I think this time we'll just paint where we do want it rather than where we don't want it. So let's just go to paint here. We've got our radius, and we're just going to paint the house and say, hey, this is where I want you to apply the sharpening, just so that we can get a little better. So we'll go around there. We don't want it on there. I just roughly do this, but you can always zoom in more. And just for the purposes of this video, you can always zoom in a little bit more if you want more specific refining, because you can see that it's bleeding over here in some spots. Okay. So I'm just going to mask all this in. Okay, I've masked all this in, and now if I want to clean it up, I can go to the eraser. You know, I can just clean up a little bit around here. It won't make much of a difference at all in our final shot, but if you wanted to sort of be a perfectionist here, you know, you can just clean up a little bit around there. So now, since I applied the paint mask, it's only going to apply the sharpening to that little piece right there. Okay, now the other thing to look at, you saw that when we zoomed in, there was some noise here. And so I do like to just play with the luminosity denoise and just see. Because as you can see, it's not a huge difference, but it really does help. This is why I love this program. It works better than you think it will. So I do like to sort of turn that up a little bit. But we also don't want to de-sharpen it to battle the sharpening that we already did too much. But you can see it is helping the noise a little bit there, which is ultimately going to lead to a better photo. So this is starting to look pretty good here. And I think that maybe I still feel like we need to brighten this up just a little bit. Let's go back into color. And turn up the reds just a little bit, orange. Now the other thing that you can do is you can also do local masking. Add a local mask, basic. And if I wanted to like bring up the exposure or just bring up the highlights on any one piece of it, then I could do that. So why don't we first, before we make the changes, we'll go and paint. Remember, we have our radius here. We're just going to go and paint our place. Okay, so now that I've painted that, any changes that I make in this local mask, the paint mask that I just did, are only going to happen to the cabin. So I think saturation here is the way to go. So if we boost up the saturation, you can see that we're only seeing, you know, rather than exposure, which is going to sort of wash it out a little bit. Maybe we'll bring it up just a tiny bit. But you see these changes are only happening. They're only happening to the cabin. So we'll boost that up, really make it stick out from the background, right? So if you toggle this without it, look at the difference here. I mean, it's just crazy, right? We've desaturated some of the greens and the yellows. We've saturated up the blue here, and then we've saturated up the reds, the oranges, things like that. We created a local mask so that only this cabin here is being affected. And you can see, wow, it's just crazy. Crazy how far that we've come. So now we can go back to edit. here, we can see, this is always a cool feature. You can see how far it's come. Always amazing. Now, one of the cool things here is that, I mean, you saw before that it had that overblown sky, and we use Sky Enhancer to sort of get rid of that, right? So Sky Enhancer helped a lot with that. It looks really good. We also added, with color, we saturated up the blues. But you can actually, when you look at that, the before and after that I showed you before, you can actually add your own sky in this program. So you go to Sky Selection, and it's going to automatically mask it out. Look at that. Absolutely amazing. So, I mean, you tell me, right? It makes a really, really big difference to have the sky on and off. And it looks very natural, and it's just cool. So overall, just such a cooler picture. Now, I won't get into these. Let me know in the comments if you want me to make another video on how I do this when I'm doing portraits. And we can talk about that, because it's the face light stuff and the skin defects removal and everything is actually, it works insanely well. There are also other things you can do with the clone tool. If I wanted to, for example, say I wanted to get rid of part of this, and I just wanted to make it, you know, have bring the horizon down, I could just literally, you know, just clone. Okay, so we pretty much have our final image here. Okay guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you got value, please hit the like button so that more people can see it, and subscribe. I make videos about photo and video all the time, mostly video, trying to help you be better at all of this stuff. If you want to learn more about my Peak Video Creators program, where I help filmmakers and camera hobbyists turn their passion into 10K plus per month businesses making product videos for clients, there's a link in the description to a free training on that. And I will see you in the next video.